Hello, reading room. It's still morning. What is going on here? We're just tightening up the schedule just a little bit and making no promises. I don't know why I would. I like the schedule. All right, let's keep her moving. Orphan Train. It is February 26th. It is day 317 in the classroom. I am Dr. Annette Feravich. Thanks so much for joining me here in the reading room where we are reading Christina Baker Kline's New York Times #1 bestseller, Orphan Train. Minneapolis, Minnesota, 1939. It is late September of my 19th year, and two new friends, Lillian Bart and Emily Reese, want me to go with them to see a picture that's playing at the Orphan Theater in Minneapolis, The Wizard of Oz. It's so long it has an intermission, and we've made plans to stay the night. Lillian's fiance lives there, and she goes almost every weekend staying in a hotel for women. It's a safe, clean place, she assures us, that doesn't cost much money, and she has booked 3 single rooms. I've only been to the Twin Cities on day trips with the Nielsen's for a special birthday dinner or shopping expedition, one afternoon at the art museum, but never with friends and never overnight. I'm not sure I want to go. For one thing, I haven't known these girls for long. They're both in my class at St. Olaf. They live together in an apartment near the college. When they talk about drinks, parties, I'm not even sure what they mean. Parties without food? The only party the Nielsen's host is an annual open house buffet lunch on New Year's Day for their vendors. Lillian, with her friendly expression and golden blonde hair, is easier to like than the arch and circumspect Emily, who has a funny half smile and severe dark bangs and is always making jokes I don't get. Their racy humor, raucous laughter, and breezy, unearned intimacy with me make me a little nervous. For another thing, a big shipment of fall fashions is coming into the store today or tomorrow, and I don't want to return to find all of it in the wrong places. Mr. Nielsen has arthritis, and though he still comes in early every morning, he usually leaves around 2 to take an afternoon nap. Mrs. Nielsen is in and out. Much of her time these days is taken up with bridge club and volunteering at the church. But she encourages me to go with Lily and Emily, saying, a girl your age should get out now and then. There's more to life than the store and your studies, Vivian. Sometimes I worry about you forget that. When I graduated from high school, Mr. Nielsen bought me a car, a white Buick convertible, while I mainly drive to the store and St. Olaf, and Mr. Nielsen says it'll be good for the car to run it a little. I'll pay for parking, he says. As we drive out of town, the sky is the saccharine blue of a baby blanket filled with puffy cotton ball clouds. It's clear before we're 10 miles down the road that Emily and Lillian's plans are more ambitious than they've let on. Yes, we'll go to the Wizard of Oz, but not the evening show. That was the excuse for staying over. There's a matinee at 3 o'clock that will leave plenty of time to return to our rooms and dress to go out. Wait a minute, I say. What do you mean go out? Lillian, sitting beside me in the passenger seat, gives my knee a squeeze. Come on, you don't think we'd drive all this way to go to a silly picture show, did you? From the back seat where she's thumbing through Silver Screen magazine, Emily says, so serious, Viv, you need to listen up. Hey, do you girls know that Judy Garland was born in Grand Rapids? Named Frances Ethel Gum. Guess that wasn't Hollywood enough. Lillian smiles over at me. You've never been to a nightclub, have you? I don't answer, but of course she's right. She tilts the rearview mirror away from me and starts to apply lipstick. That's what I thought. We are going to have some real fun for a change. Then she smiles, her gloomy pink lipstick framing small white teeth, starting with cocktails. The Women's Hotel on a Minneapolis side street is just as Lillian described it, with a clean but sparsely furnished lobby and a board clerk who barely looks up when he hands us our keys. Standing at the elevator with our bags, we plan to meet for the picture show in 15 minutes. Don't be late, Emily admonishes. We have to get popcorn. There's always a line. After dropping my bag in the closet of my narrow room on the 4th floor, I sit on the bed and bounce a few times. The mattress is thin with creaky springs, but I feel a thrill of pleasure. My trips with Mr. Nielsen are controlled, unambitious outings, a silent car ride, a specific destination, a sleepy ride home in the dark. Mr. Nielsen sitting erect in the front seat, Mrs. Nielsen beside him, keeping a watchful eye on the center line. Emily is standing alone in the lobby when I come downstairs. When I ask where Lillian is, she gives me a wink. She's not feeling so well. She'll meet us after. As we make our way to the theater 5 blocks away, it occurs to me that Lillian never had any intention of going to the picture with us. The Wizard of Oz is magical and strange. Black and white farmland gives way to a Technicolor dreamscape as vivid and unpredictable as Dorothy Gale's real life and ordinary and familiar. When she returns to Kansas, her heartfelt wish granted, the world is black and white again. It's good to be home, she says. Back on the farm, her life stretches ahead on the flat horizon line, already populated with the only characters she'll ever know. When Emily and I leave the theater, it is early evening. I was so absorbed in the movie that real life feels slightly unreal. I have that uncanny sense of having stepped out of the screen and onto the street. The evening light is soft and pink, the air as mild as bathwater. Emily yawns. Well, that was long. I don't want to ask, but manners compel me. What did you think? She shrugs. Those flying monkeys were creepy. But other than that, I don't know. I thought it was kind of boring. We walk along in silence, past darkened department store windows. What about you? She says after a few minutes. Did you like it? I love the movie so much that I didn't trust myself to respond without sounding foolish. Yes, I say, unable to translate into speech the emotions swirling through me. Back in my room, I change into my other outfit, a chiffon skirt and floral blouse with butterfly sleeves. I brush my hair over my head and toss it back, then shape it with my fingers and spray it with lacquer. Standing on my toes, I look at my reflection in a small mirror above the bed. In the late afternoon light, I look scrubbed and serious. Every freckle on my nose is visible. Taking out a small zippered bag, I spread butter soft moisturizer on my face, then foundation, a smear of rouge, a pat of powder. I slide a brown pencil along my upper lids and feather my lashes, apply terracotta lipstick, then blot my lips, apply it again, and tuck my gold vial in my purse. I scrutinize myself in the mirror. I'm still me, but I feel braver. Down in the lobby, Lillian is holding hands with the guy I recognize as her fiancé, Richard, from the photograph she keeps in her purse. He's shorter than I expected, shorter than Lillian. Acne scars his cheeks. Lillian's wearing a sleeveless emerald shift dress, hemmed just above the knee, which is 3 inches shorter than anyone wears in Hemmingford, and black kitten heels. Richard yanks her close, whispers in her ear, and her eyes go wide. She covers her mouth and giggles, then sees me. Vivi, she says, tearing herself away. Look at you. I don't think I've ever seen you with makeup. You clean up nice. You too, I say, though actually I've never seen her without. How was the movie? It was good. Where are you? She glances at Richard. I got waylaid. They both start to giggle again. That's one way to put it, he says. You must be Richard, I say. How'd you guess? He claps me on the shoulder to show he's kidding around. You ready for some fun tonight, Vivi? Well, I sure am. Emily's voice comes from over my shoulder, and I smell jasmine and roses. Joy, I recognize from the perfume counter at Nielsen's. Turning to greet her, I'm startled by her low-cut white blouse, and tight striped skirt, her teetering heels, and crimson nail polish. Hello, Em, Richard grins. The fellas are sure going to be happy to see you. I'm suddenly self-conscious in my prim blouse and modest skirts, my sensible shoes, and churchy earrings. I feel like exactly what I am, a small-town girl in a big city. Richard has his arms around both girls now, pinching them on the waist, laughing as they squirm. I glance at the desk clerk, the same one who was here when we checked in. No, I'm not sad. My throat is dry. It's been a long day for him, I think. He's leafing through a newspaper and only looks up when there's a raucous burst of laughter. I can see the headline from here. Germans and Soviets parade in Poland. I'm getting thirsty, girls. Let's find a watering hole, Richard says. My stomach is rumbling. Should we get dinner first? If you insist, Miss Vivi. Though bar nuts would do it for me. What about you girls? He asked the other two. Now, Richard, this is Viv's first time in the city. She's not used to your decadent ways. Let's get some food, Lillian says. Besides, it might be risky for us lightweights to start drinking on an empty stomach. Risky how? He pulls her closer, and Lillian smirks, then pushes him away, making her point. All right, he says, making a show of his acquiescence. At the Grand Hotel, there's a piano bar that serves chow. I seem to remember a pretty good T-bone, and I know they got a nice martini. I have to get something else to drink besides that coffee because it's not quenching my thirst, and it's like that. So I'll be right back. It's my vitamin C for the early birds who recognize it. Because they might. Okay, let's keep her going. Lucy, shh. I know. Okay, hush. Hey, sit. Lucy. Lucy, sit down, honey. Okay? Enough. I know. I know. I know. Sit. Enough. Sit down. Sit. Good girl. Good girl. Sit and quiet. Yeah, you. I see you. Starting to get distracted again. All right. Oh, that's not what we want. We want this one. There we go. Okay. We make our way out onto the street, now humming with people. It's a perfect evening. The air is warm. The trees along the avenue swathed in deep green leaves. Flowers spill out of planters slightly overgrown and a bit wild here at the furthest edge of summer. As we stroll along, my spirits lift. Mingling in this wide swath of strangers shifts my attention from myself, that tedious subject, to the world around me. I might as well be in a foreign country for all its similarities to my sober real life, with its predictable routines and rhythms. A day in the store, supper at 6, a quiet evening of studying on quilting or bridge. Richard, with his carnival barker slickness, seems to have given up on even trying to include me. But I don't mind. It is marvelous to be young on a big city street. As we approach the heavy glass and brass front door or Grand Hotel, a liveried doorman opens it wide. Richard sails in with Lil and Em, as he calls them, on his arms, and I scurry behind in their wake. The doorman tips his cap as I thank him. Bars on the left, just through the foyer, he says, making it clear he knows we're not hotel guests. I've never been in a space this majestic, except maybe the Chicago train station all those years ago, and it's all I can do not to gape at the starburst chandelier glittering over our heads, the glossy mahogany table with an oversized ceramic urn filled with exotic flowers in the center of the room. The people in the foyer are equally striking. A woman wearing a flat black hat with a net that covers half her face stands at the reception desk with a pile of red leather suitcases, pulling off one long black satin glove and then the other. A white-haired matron carries a fluffy white dog with black button eyes. A man in a morning coat talks with the telephone at the front desk. An older gentleman wearing a monocle, sitting alone on a green love seat, holds a small brown book open in front of his nose. These people look bored, amused, impatient, self-satisfied, but most of all, they look rich. Now I am glad not to be wearing the gaudy, provocative clothing that seems to be drawing stares and whispers to Lil and Em. Ahead of me, the three of them saunter across the lobby, shrieking with laughter, one of Richard's arms around Lil's shoulder and the other cinching Em's waist. "Hey, Vivi," Lil calls, glancing back as if suddenly remembering I'm here. "This way." Richard pulls open the double doors to the bar, throws his hands into the air with the flourish and ushers Lil and M giggling and whispering inside. He follows the doors he follows, and the doors close slowly behind him. I slow to a stop in front of the green couches. I'm in no hurry to go in to be a fifth wheel, treated like I'm hopelessly out of it, old-fashioned and humorless by the freewheeling Richard. Maybe I think I should just walk around for a while and then go back to the rooming house. Since the martini, nothing has felt quite real anyway. It's been enough of a day for me, much more certainly than I'm used to. I perch on one of the couches, watching people come and go. At the door now is a woman in a purple satin dress with cascading brown hair, elegantly nonchalant, waving at the porter with a bejeweled hand as she glides into the foyer. Absorbed in watching her as she floats past me toward the concierge desk, I don't notice the tall, thin man with blonde hair until he is standing in front of me. His eyes are piercing blue. "Excuse me, miss," he says. I wonder if maybe he is going to say something about how I am so obviously out of place, or ask if I need help. Do I know you from somewhere? I look at his golden blonde hair, short in the back but longer in the front. Nothing like a small town boy's I'm used to, with their hair shorn like sheep. He's wearing gray pants, a crisp white shirt, and a black tie, and carrying a slim attaché case. His fingers are long and tapered. I don't think so. Something about you is very familiar. He's staring at me so intently that it makes me blush. I stammer, I really don't know. And then with a smile playing around his lips, he says, "Forgive me if I'm wrong, but did you come here on a train from New York about 10 years ago?" What? My heart jumps. How does he know that? "Are you Neve?" he asks, and then I know. Oh my God, Dutchie, it's you. Minneapolis, Minnesota, 1939. Can I put some lip stuff on as I'm smiling? Because that's so cool. And then take a little drink of my orange juice, of my OJ. I'm pretty sure that's orange juice. It's really good. It's from a can. It's so frozen. It's really good. Yeah. I think it's a tiny bit watery, but it's really good. Instead of too sweet. Minneapolis, Minnesota, 1939. Dutchie drops the attaché case as I stand up and sweeps me into a hug. I feel the ropey hardness of his arms, the warmth of his slightly concave chest as he holds me tight, tighter than anyone has ever held me. A long embrace in the middle of his fancy lobby is probably inappropriate. People are staring. But for once in my life, I don't care. He pushes me away to look at my face, then touches my cheeks and pulls me close again. Through his cambric shirt, I feel his heart racing as fast as mine. When you blushed, I knew. You looked just the same. He runs his hand down my hair, stroking it like a pelt. Your hair, it's darker. I can't tell you how many times I've looked for you in a crowd or thought I saw you from the back. You told me you'd find me, I say, remember? It was the last thing you said. I wanted to, I tried, but I didn't know where to look. And then so much happened. He shakes his head in disbelief. Is it really you, Neve? Well, yes, but I'm not Neve anymore, I tell him. I'm Vivian. I'm not Dutchy either, or Hans, for that matter. I'm Luke. We both start laughing at the absurdity of our shared experience, the relief of recognition. We cling to each other like survivors of shipwreck, astonished that neither of us drowned. The many questions I want to ask render me mute. Before I can even formulate words, Dutchy Luke says, "This is crazy, but I have to leave. I have a gig." A gig? I play piano in the bar here. It's not a terrible job if nobody gets too drunk. I was just on my way in there, I tell him. My friends are waiting for me. They're probably drunk as we speak. He picks up his case. I wish we could just blow out of here, he says. Go somewhere and talk. I do too, but I don't want him to risk his job for me. I'll stay till you're done. We can talk later. It'll kill me to wait that long. When I enter the bar with him, Lil and Em look back, curiosity on their faces. The room is dark and smoky, with plush purple carpeting patterned with flowers and purple leather banquets filled with people. That's the way to do it, girl, Richard says. You sure didn't waste any time. I sink into a chair at their table, order a gin fizz at the waiter's suggestion, and concentrate on Dutchy's fingers, which I can see from where I'm sitting, deftly skimming the piano keys. Ducking his head and closing his eyes, he sings in a clear, low voice. He plays Glenn Miller and Artie Shaw and Glenn Gray music that everybody knows, songs like Little Brown Jug and Heaven Can Wait, rearranged to draw out different meanings and some old standards for the gray-haired men on bar stools. Every now and then he pulls sheet music from his case, but mostly he seems to play from memory or by ear. A small cluster of older ladies clutching pocketbooks, their hair carefully coiffed, probably on a shopping expedition from some province or suburb, smiling coo when he tinkles the opening of Moonlight Serenade. Conversation washes over my lips, slips around me, staggering now, and then when I'm expected to answer a question or laugh at a joke, I'm not paying attention. How can I? Dutchy is talking to me through the piano, and as in a dream, I understand his meaning. I have been so alone on this journey, cut off from my past. However hard I try, I will always feel alien and strange, and now I stumbled on a fellow outsider, one who speaks my language without saying a word. The more people drink, the more requests they make, and the fuller Dutchy's tip jar grows. Richard's head is buried in Lil's neck, and Em is practically sitting in the lap of the gray hair who wandered over from the bar. Over the rainbow, she calls out, several gin fizzes to the wind. You know that one from the movie. Dutchy nods, smiles, spreads his fingers across the keys. By the way he plays the chords, I can tell he's been asked to sing it before. He has half an hour left on the clock when Richard makes a show of looking at his watch. Holy shit, excuse my French, he says. It's late and I got church tomorrow. Everyone laughs. I'm ready to turn in too, Lil says. Em smirks. Turn into what? Let's blow this joint. I gotta get that thing I left in your room, Richard says to Lil, standing up. What thing, she asks. You know, the thing, he says, winking at Em. He's gotta get the thing, Lil, Em says drunkenly. The thing. I didn't know men were allowed in the room, I say. Richard rubs his thumb and forefinger together. A little grease for the wheel keeps the car running, if you get my gist. The desk clerk is easy to bribe, Lil translates. Just so you know, in case you want to spend some quality time with the dreamboat over there. She and M collapse and giggles. We make a plan to meet in the lobby of the Women's Hotel tomorrow at noon, and the four of them stand to leave. And then there's a change of plans. Richard knows a bar that's open until 2, and they go off in search of it. The two girls tottering on their heels and swaying against the men who seem all too happy to support them. Just after midnight, the street outside the hotel is lit up but empty, like a stage set before the actors appear. It doesn't matter that I barely know the man Dutchy has become, know nothing about his family, his adolescence. I don't care about it. I don't care about how it might look to take him back to my room. I just want to spend more time with him. Are you sure? He asks. More than sure. He slips some bills in my hand. Here, for the clerk, from the tip jar. It's cool enough that Dutchy puts his jacket around my shoulders. His hand in mine as we walk feels like the most natural thing in the world through the low buildings. Chips of stars glitter in a velvet sky. At the front desk, the clerk, an older man now with a tweed cap tipped over his face, says, "What can I do for you?" Oddly, I am not at all nervous. My cousin lives in town. All right to take him up for a visit? The clerks look through the glass door at Dutchy standing on the sidewalk. Cousin, huh? I slid $2 bills across the desk. I appreciate it. With his fingertips, the clerk pulls the money toward him. I wave at Dutchy, and he opens the door, salutes the clerk, and follows me into the elevator. In the strange, shadowed lighting of my small room, Dutchy takes off his belt and dress shirt and hangs them over the only chair. He stretches out on the bed as his undershirt and trousers, his back against the wall, and I lean against him, feeling his body curve around mine. His warm breath is on my neck, his arm on my waist. I wonder for a moment if he'll kiss me. I want him to. How can this be, he murmurs. It isn't possible, and yet I've dreamed of it. Have you? I don't know what to say. I never dared to imagine that I'd see him again. In my experience, when you lose somebody you care about, they stay gone. What's the best thing that happened to you in the past 10 years, I ask. Seeing you again. Smiling, I push back against his chest. Beside that, meeting you the first time. We both laugh. Besides that, he muses his lips on my shoulder. Is there anything besides that? He pulls me close, his hand cupping my hip bone. And though I've never done anything like this before, have barely ever been alone with a man, certainly not a man in his undershirt, I'm not nervous. When he kisses me, my whole body hums. A few minutes later, he says, I guess the best thing was finding out that I was good at something, at playing the piano. I was such a shell of a person. I had no confidence. Playing the piano gave me a place in the world, and it was something I could do when I was angry or upset or even happy. It was a way to express my feelings when I didn't even know what they were. He laughs a little. Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? No. What about you? What's the best thing? I don't know why I asked him this question since I don't have an answer myself. I slide up so I am sitting at the head of the narrow bed with my feet tucked under me. As Dutchy rearranges himself with his back against the wall on the other end, words tumble from my mouth. I tell him about my loneliness and hunger at the Burnses, the abject misery of the Groats. I tell him about how grateful I am to the Nielsen's, and also how tamped down I sometimes feel with them. Dutchy tells me what happened to him after he left the Grange Hall. Life with the farmer and his wife was as bad as he'd feared. They made him sleep on hay bales in the barn and beat him if he complained. His ribs were fractured in a hanging accident, and they never called a doctor. He lived with them for 3 months. finally running away when the farmer woke him in a beating one morning because a raccoon got into the chicken coop. In pain, half starved with a tapeworm and an eye infection, he collapsed on the road to town and was taken to the infirmary by a kindly widow. But the farmer convinced the authorities that Dutchie was a juvenile delinquent who needed a firm hand, and Dutchie was returned to him. He ran away twice more, the second time in a blizzard, when it was a miracle he didn't freeze to death. Running into a neighbor's clothesline saved his life. The neighbor found him in his barn the following morning and made a deal with the farmer to trade Dutchie for a pig. A pig, I say? I'm sure he thought it was a worthy trade. The pig was massive. This farmer, a widower named Carl Maynard, whose son and daughter were grown, gave him chores to do, but also sent him to school. And when Dutchie showed an interest in the dusty upright piano the widower's wife used to play, he got it tuned and found a teacher to come to the farm to give him lessons. When he was 18, Dutchie moved to Minneapolis, where he took any work he could find playing piano in bands and bars. Maynard wanted me to take over the farm, but I knew I wasn't cut out for it, he says. Honestly, I was grateful to have a skill I could use and to live on my own. It's a relief to be an adult. I hadn't thought about it like this, but he's right. It is a relief. You know, that was our feeling. That's such an interesting thing to think about, because it was a relief for me too to be an adult. It was a relief to be an adult. And if we give our children everything, I'm not saying, you know, it needs to be orphan trained by any stretch of the imagination. But in psychology, we know that the obstacles we have to overcome bring us to the virtuous people that we can end up becoming, right? And so yeah. Where was I here? Yeah, there we go. Okay. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it like this, but he's right. It is a relief. I so remember it. And it isn't, you don't think about it until somebody says that to you. I don't know what to say about that, right? What do you say about something like that? That your tragedies made you to be the strong person. But knowing that she knows nothing about him and yet she can collapse in his arms and be, not feel, not just feel, but actually be completely safe. That says volumes, doesn't it? It just says volumes. He reaches over and touches my necklace. You still have it. That gives me faith. Faith in what? God, I suppose. No, I don't know. Survival. As light begins to seep through the darkness outside the window around 5 a.m., he tells me that he's playing the organ in the Episcopal Church on Banner Street at 8 o'clock at the 8 o'clock service. Do you want to stay till then? I ask. Do you want me to? What do you think? He stretches out beside the wall and pulls me toward him, curving his body around mine again, his arm tucked under my waist. As I lie there matching my breath to his, I can tell the moment when he lapses into sleep. I inhale the musk of his aftershave, a whiff of hair oil. I reach for his hand and grasp his long fingers and lace them through mine, rethinking about the fateful steps that led me to him. If I hadn't come on this trip, if I had something to eat, if Richard had taken us to a different bar. There are so many ways to play this game. Still, I can't help think that everything I've been through has led to this. If I hadn't been chosen by the Burns, I wouldn't have ended up with the Groats and met Miss Larson. If Miss Larson hadn't brought me to Mrs. Murphy, I never would have met the Nielsen's. And if I weren't living with the Nielsen's and attending college with Lil and Em, I would never have come to Minneapolis for the night and probably never would have seen Dutchie again. My entire life has felt this chance, random moments of loss and connection. This is the first one that feels instead like fate. Isn't that also interesting too? No, that wasn't my fate. No, that wasn't my fate. No, that wasn't my fate. Yes, that is my fate. That is my fate. How wonderful. You know, with people who are telling you you're bad juju, which I've had. Scumbag. Yeah. Okay. And that's what that's like. Other people say you're bad juju. Oh, really? Because bad things happen to me, not my fate. So, Lil demands, what happened? We're on our way back to Hemmingford with Em stretched out and groaning on the back seat wearing dark glasses. Her face has a greenish tint. I am determined not to give anything away. Nothing happened. What happened with you? Don't change the subject, Missy, Lil says. How'd you know that guy anyway? I've already thought about an answer. He's come into the store a few times. Lil is skeptical. What would he be doing in Hemmingford? He tunes pianos. Humph, she says, clearly unconvinced. Well, you two seem to hit it off. I shrug. He's nice enough. How much money do piano tuners make anyway? Em says from the back. I want to tell her to shut up. Instead, I take a deep breath and say breezily, who knows? It's like I'm going to marry him or anything. It's not like I'm going to marry him or anything. 10 months later, after recounting this exchange to 24 wedding guests in the basement of Grace Lutheran Church, Lil raises her glass in a toast to Vivian and Luke Maynard, she says. May they always make beautiful music together. How wonderful. I think that's it for today because that's 43 minutes. So I think it was only 2 chapters. And so, yes, this is Dr. Annette Feravich. I'm going to, gosh, I got to find something to eat before I starve to death. Thanks, son of mine. Guardian of mine should be bringing me in this center for who even knows what. Nutritious homemade meals. Dr. Annette Feravich, thanks so much for joining me here in the classroom for our 3 days on. Now get ready for your 4 days off. Think about it. It is February 26th. That was day 317 that we just completed with the Orphan Train. What an amazing book. What an amazing book by Christina Baker Kline. Thanks so much again for joining me here. Where we are always working in the reading room that has been here since the beginning of our classroom. And we've accomplished a lot of things and a lot of learning here in this reading room. I'm so happy to be here, to use this method for making your mind, your body, and your spirit healthier. Thanks.